Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. This time out, we're joined by John Jennings, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Royer. Thanks for coming in, John.
Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
it. Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So you're here doing some training for the sales engineers. And you come in fairly regularly and do that. Is that right?
I come in every 3 months. Every quarter, as you're bringing on your next group of sales engineers, I'll come through and give them ribbon microphone training, specific ribbon training.
Okay.
We just finished a class today. Great group of people.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you go through the different mics that Royer makes and also just the way that ribbons work and where you use them?
Yeah, it's really not a Royer thing so much as a ribbon thing. It's the general principles of ribbons and the fact that there are things that they do beautifully and there are things that they don't do which might even add more to them. They don't add sibilance. They don't overshoot. They don't produce distortion. They're very interesting mics. They do beautiful in the studio. And that's what I'm here to teach these folks.
So Royer was really responsible for bringing the ribbon mic back to attention in the studios. I mean, they'd kind of fallen out of favor, but then you guys came back with the mics. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that happened?
Sure. Dave Royer and I had a company before Royer Labs that didn't pan out. We were making condensers and pre's, very good gear. But David was talking about ribbons at that point, and then I learned that Eddie Kramer had always had a ribbon on Jimi Hendrix's cabinet, and that really opened my eyes. So David and I started a discussion that is still going on today, but that led to, we met a couple other folks, Rick Parada, the president of Royer Labs, and Raphael Villafane, and we decided to open a company and focus on Dave's ribbon ideas, which were initially really based on a design he had cooked up called the 121. He cooked that microphone up in his garage and brought it up and showed it to us, and we thought, wow, what a unique piece of gear. We took that mic to Joe Barresi, who put it up on a then unknown band, and you know, that mic at that point became the 121. That band became Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, wow.
And it was a nice way to get it started.
Yeah, right.
But it was the first ribbon you could put on a heavy guitar cabinet and not blow it up, and had a very, very nice mid-range response, and we thought it was a great tool for the studio. We had no idea how successful it would become. But our thought was that we could help bring the ribbon microphone back and fulfill Dave's dream there of bringing them back, and it's really worked out well. Yeah,
everything had kind of shifted to condensers and dynamics. People really weren't using ribbons very much in the studio, were they?
No, they weren't. What had happened was you had a lot of large, heavy, old designs, RCA 44s and 77s, and even the Coles 4038, wonderful ribbon, but fairly heavy. The 48 was very fragile. The RCAs were fragile and heavy. And back in the late 50s, broadcast was really the dominant force, and recording was secondary to that. So the microphones that they were interested in, condensers, were much lighter and they had more pickup, so they were better for their needs. Plus the recording medium back then, you could use that extra brightness that condensers brought to it. Today's digital systems, you know, excess of brightness is a real problem. You find yourself trying to DS tracks and control for sibilance and things, and you know, the early days of the digital systems were a wonderful time for us to decide to release ribbons, because the two went together so beautifully. And a lot of engineers who were feeling the excessive harshness of being in a digital domain with condensers really felt like they were back in the analog. You know, some folks told us it felt like they were working on 2-inch machines again. You know, and it just felt very real and analog to put a ribbon up.
They just really seemed to pick up the sound in a way that our ears, in a way similar to our ears, actually. They kind of hear the same way that we do, which is really a cool thing.
Exactly. That's been our slogan from the beginning. It's been "Here's like your ears."
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
See, I should have come up with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Getting royalties or something. Now, you guys have had other innovations as well along the way. You also were the first to come out with something that allowed you to use basically any mic preamp with a ribbon microphone, because impedances were issues in the early days, right? Back in the 50s, you had to have the right impedance to use the ribbon mic and get the proper sound out of it and things. But then you came out with a 122. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Ribbons are passive devices, and you need, for recording you know, louder instruments, the gain characteristics don't matter that much. But when you're trying to track something like a sweet acoustic guitar or a violin, you really need to crank a lot of level with that pre to bring the microphone level up enough. So Dave Royer and Rick Parada cooked up a phantom powered circuit, and it took them quite a while. They went through 15 or 16 different designs before they found something that they thought was great. But that phantom powered circuit allows sensitivity along the lines of a condenser microphone, which is really nice for tracking quieter instruments and getting into classical recordings and things. It's nice to have that extra level. And then older ribbons depended on the input impedance of the preamplifier for the impedance to the ribbon element. If you got too low an impedance, that ribbon sort of seizes up and loses some of the low end and beauty. With the phantom-powered ribbon microphones, the circuit itself sets the impedance to the ribbon element, so you're always in a perfect environment there.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, with the passive ribbons, sometimes it's cool effect. You know, a lot of times things that are wrong can sound pretty good. You dial the impedance back on a 121, and that seizing up of the low end can actually be like free EQing, where you put it on a guitar cab, and if the proximity effect of the microphone is making it bass heavy and you dial the impedance back, you lose some of that low end. Michael Wagner does that to great effect using Chandler TG2 preamplifiers. Dials it back to 300 ohms, which is technically wrong, and musically sounds so great.
Right. Right. So breaking the rules when it sounds good, so that's the way to go.
Exactly. But if you don't feel like breaking those rules and you need the extra level of the 122, it's a wonderful microphone for that. And we've also released an SF2, which has a different ribbon transducer, and which is beautiful in orchestral situations and acoustic instruments, and that has the same phantom-powered circuit.
Right, and that's related to the SF24, which is the stereo.
Correct.
As well, right? Right, and then you have the tube, the 122V.
Yeah.
So lots of cool things you guys are doing, and as a matter of fact, you were recently recognized for all the cool things that you guys have been doing.
Were we?
Yeah, something happened like within the last 2 weeks or so.
Oh,
what would that have been? What would that have been?
That would have been this little baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Royer received a 2013 Technical Grammy Award.
Yeah.
Tell us how that happened. How'd that come about?
We got a phone call from Neil Portnow, president of the Recording Academy, and Neil spent about 40 minutes telling us why Royer had been nominated and then elected to win the 2013 Technical Grammy. It's an incredible moment, and really what it came down to in a nutshell is he said the Grammys wanted to recognize the impact of ribbon microphones in the recording process, especially in the digital domain, and how warm and musical they sound, and how much the engineers within the Grammys, or so many engineers who are associated with the Grammys, rely heavily on ribbons now for their recordings, and it's part of where you get the beauty and the musicality from your tracks. So really it was great for Royer to get this, but we view the award as a real validation of ribbon microphones and the technology.
Right. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, it's doubly cool because a lot of the companies who win the Technical Grammy have been doing things for decades, you know, many years. They're large companies, and Royer, you know, coming in here with ribbon microphones and having that focus and specifically developing that technology. So cool to see you guys capture that award.
Thanks.
Yeah, really,
thanks.
Really, really great.
We looked at some of the companies that have won it, and generally companies that have been around for many decades, and we will be in business 15 years this May.
Wow, 15th anniversary. Congratulations on that as well.
Thanks. And I tell you, that validation is going to help us in parts of the world. You know, we are sold very well throughout Europe and the States and Canada, but there are other parts of the world that don't understand ribbons as well yet. And I think that the Grammy Award is going to be very helpful in validating the concept.
It's a powerful calling card.
It really is. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'll hold it?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. You won one of these yourself once.
I did. I have a NARIS award. It was in 1992 for a piece I wrote for percussion ensemble and computer based on the Fibonacci number series. So a very different thing than what you're doing here. But yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah,
but,
you're a great musician.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. John, thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate you being here, the time you spend helping train our sales engineers, and of course all the great things that Royer brings to the table. It's just a wonderful partnership, and we're glad to have you around.
Now, I really enjoy coming out here on a regular basis and training your staff because they're there at 9 in the morning ready to learn, and we spend an hour and a half going over what happens with ribbons, and I see them doing that with a number of other products and different kinds of information. You're really building experts here who can help clients get the best gear and make the best recordings. So it's always a pleasure to come out here, and appreciate this time with you today.
You bet. Thanks, John.
Hi, buddy.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.